I live in a tiny town called Maplewood. You probably haven't heard of it. Most people haven't. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone and news travels fast. The biggest excitement we usually get is the annual county fair. But last summer, something happened that changed everything, and it's a story I'll never forget. It all started on a warm Friday evening. I was out for a walk, enjoying the nice weather, when I noticed a group of kids playing near the old general store. The store had been around forever, run by a grumpy old man named Mr. Tanner. He was a loner, always keeping to himself, and kids were told to stay away from him. I never thought much of it until that day. As I walked by, I saw Mr. Tanner standing in the doorway, watching the kids with an odd smile. It gave me chills. The kids seemed to sense it too, and they eventually wandered off. I shrugged it off and continued my walk, but that image stuck with me. Something felt off about him. A few days later, I was at the diner, and the atmosphere was tense. I overheard a couple of locals talking about some missing children in town. They mentioned that there had been reports of kids disappearing over the past few weeks. I felt my heart drop. How could this happen in our quiet little town? I decided to do some digging. I talked to friends and neighbors, and it turned out that several kids had indeed gone missing, 27 in total. Parents were scared and worried, but no one had any leads. The police were investigating, but it seemed like they were at a dead end. The town was in a panic. The town. One evening, I saw Mr. Tanner again. He was closing up his store, and there was something strange about the way he was acting. He seemed jittery, constantly looking around as if he was expecting someone. I felt a growing urge to confront him, but I hesitated. After all, he was just an old man, right? Man. Things escalated quickly. The police announced they were calling in the FBI to help with the investigation. It felt surreal. The FBI? In Maplewood? I thought this was just a small-town problem. But they arrived, and things took a serious turn. The FBI set up a command center in the old community center. They started interviewing people and gathering information. I was intrigued and a bit scared. What if they found something? What if Mr. Tanner was involved? My gut told me he was hiding something, and I couldn't shake the feeling. One night I was out walking again, and I noticed the lights on at the general store. Curiosity got the better of me. I decided to sneak closer and see what was going on. As I approached, I heard voices coming from inside. I crouched down by the window and peered in. What I saw sent a chill down my spine. Mr. Tanner was there, but he wasn't alone. There were a few other men with him, and they looked serious. They were huddled around a table, looking at what appeared to be drawings of the missing kids. I felt sick to my stomach. My instincts were right. Something terrible was happening. I ran home and called the police, but I wasn't sure they would take me seriously. It was late, and I didn't want to make a scene. Instead, I decided to keep watching the store. I stayed up late that night, peeking out my window, but nothing happened. The next day, the FBI ramped up their efforts. They started canvassing the neighborhood, asking questions and looking for clues. I wanted to help, so I joined the search party, hoping to find any trace of the kids. We scoured the woods and empty buildings, but it felt hopeless. As days went by, the tension in town grew. Parents were terrified, and the atmosphere was heavy with fear. I kept thinking about Mr. Tanner. I couldn't get his face out of my mind. The way he watched the kids, his strange smile. Something about him felt predatory. Then, one day, a breakthrough came. The FBI had received a tip from someone in town who had seen suspicious activity at the store. They decided to raid the place. I was nearby when it happened. I watched as dozens of agents swarmed the building, guns drawn. My heart raced as I stood there, unsure of what to expect. The next few hours felt like a blur. The agents stormed in, and I could see chaos unfolding inside. They shouted commands, and I prayed they would find the kids. After what felt like an eternity, they finally emerged from the store, and my heart stopped. They were carrying kids, 27 of them. I couldn't believe it. They were alive. The sight was overwhelming. Parents rushed to their children, hugging and crying. I felt tears in my eyes as I realized that the nightmare was over. Mr. Tanner was arrested, along with the men he had been working with. It turned out he had been luring kids into his store with candy and toys, then keeping them hidden away. The whole town was in shock. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How could someone like Mr. Tanner, someone I had seen for years, turn out to be a kidnapper? The FBI held a press conference explaining how they managed to find the kids and detailing Mr. Tanner's horrifying operation. After everything settled down, I sat down to reflect on what had happened. It felt like a dream, a horrible nightmare that revealed the darkness hiding beneath the surface of our quiet town. We always think it won't happen to us, but it can. It did. The kids were returned to their families, and Maplewood slowly started to heal. But I'll never forget that summer, the fear, the uncertainty, and the chilling realization that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we least expect.